Your passport has been stamped, your bags are packed, but the American dream is slipping away. You show up for your immigration hearing, and just 5 minutes later, you're handed a deportation order. No warning. No appeal. Just a one-way ticket, sometimes not even to your home country. What exactly is happening across the United States? A silent purge is taking place. Entire families from Asia, people who have built businesses, paid taxes, and raised children, are being removed from the country. And it's not random. Specific nations are being targeted more aggressively, more rapidly, and with unnerving precision. Is your homeland among them? Let's find out. Number 10. India. You board a plane to pursue opportunity. You study, work, and establish a life. Then, without warning, you're told to leave. Over 1,000 Indian nationals have already been deported from the United States in the early months of 2025. These removals are happening quietly and persistently. Some of those affected are students. Others overstayed a visa by just a few days. Many have no criminal history. It's shocking who is being targeted. Entire families, including tech professionals and school-aged children, are being uprooted. And what's most concerning? These deportations are occurring without media attention, without public discourse. India's government is scrambling behind the scenes to address the fallout, but there is no clear plan, no safety net waiting in Delhi or Punjab. Only confusion, humiliation, and economic devastation remain. India's diaspora in the US, one of the largest in the world, may now be at risk of unraveling. For those affected, deportation is not a bureaucratic process. It's deeply personal. Number 9. Pakistan. It often begins with a knock at the door or a quiet arrest on the way to work. No headlines. No advance notice. Just disappearance. Pakistanis living in the US are experiencing a surge in deportations. More than 600 have already been removed over the past year, and another 2,000 remain in legal limbo. At first glance, it may appear to be a paperwork issue. But look closer. Many of these individuals have lived in America for years, some for decades. They have US-born children. They own businesses. They serve in essential roles. So why has Pakistan suddenly drawn increased attention from Washington? Is it political tension? Visa violations? Or something deeper, something unspoken? The speed with which lives are being upended is astonishing. One immigration hearing is all it takes for an entire future to collapse. Number 8. Vietnam. You believe you've succeeded. Your restaurant in California is thriving. Your small business in Texas is growing. Your children are excelling in school. Then, one letter changes everything. The Vietnamese community in the US is now facing a sharp rise in deportations. Over 400 Vietnamese nationals have already been removed in 2025 alone. These deportations happen quietly, without trials, without second chances. Here's the disturbing truth. Many of these individuals came to America as children, some as refugees after the Vietnam War. They've lived here for decades, own property, pay taxes, and speak fluent English. Yet now, they are being forced to return to a country they barely know, or have never seen. Why the change? Increasing cooperation between the US and Vietnam has reopened a legal loophole. Previously, this loophole offered protection to long-term Vietnamese residents. That safeguard is now fading. And Vietnam, for its part, is not prepared to receive them. Many returnees face cultural disorientation, lack of healthcare, no housing, and no jobs. Even worse, some deportees are considered stateless. Vietnam doesn't always recognize them as citizens, leaving them in legal limbo. This is not just an issue of immigration policy, it's a humanitarian crisis. Families are being torn apart, and entire communities now live in fear. Who's next? Could it be your neighbor or your cousin, after just one visit from ICE? Number 7. Uzbekistan. You wait years, maybe a decade, for a visa. You arrive in America with dreams bigger than your suitcase. Just as life begins to stabilize, everything shifts. Uzbek nationals are now being deported at rates not seen in years. In the first half of 2025 alone, more than 200 have been removed from the US, quietly and consistently. Many of these individuals have no criminal background. Some overstayed short-term visas, others were awaiting asylum decisions. They lived peacefully and worked legally. Why the sudden crackdown? It started after a group of Uzbek nationals was arrested in 2024 while crossing the southern border. They were later flagged for suspected terror connections, though no terrorism charges were filed. The damage, however, was done. The entire community came under suspicion. Today, families with no criminal ties are facing midnight raids and expedited court hearings. Some haven't even been given legal counsel. To make matters worse, many of the deportees are being returned to a government that tracks them closely, especially those who left under suspicious circumstances. Surveillance, blacklists, and interrogations are not uncommon. The adjustment is brutal. US job skills don't translate. English-speaking children struggle in Uzbek classrooms. Remittances that once supported families vanish overnight. What began as isolated removals is now a sweeping purge, one mistake at a time. Could your visa be next? Could you wake up tomorrow and find your entire American life gone? Number 6. Kyrgyzstan. You follow every rule. You work hard. You stay out of trouble. But none of that seems to matter anymore. A single visit from immigration officers, and your life in America disappears in an instant. Kyrgyz nationals are now among those facing rapidly increasing deportation orders in 2025. Over the past year, more than 120 citizens of Kyrgyzstan have been deported, some after years of living and working in the US legally. Why the sudden escalation? Security concerns have grown following the arrest of several Kyrgyz individuals at the southern border in late 2024. Since then, US authorities have started flagging more Central Asian visitors and overstays, even those with no criminal history. Sometimes, even being near someone already flagged is enough to trigger deportation. And the consequences are harsh. Many Kyrgyz immigrants in the US came in search of economic survival. Back home, wages are low, and youth unemployment is high. For many families, money sent from the US is their only source of support. When these individuals are deported, they return to an unforgiving environment. No support system, intense government scrutiny, and job blacklists. Skilled American workers quickly become unemployed outcasts back home. Fear is spreading. People are skipping medical appointments and staying out of public institutions, afraid of being tracked. Today, simply being Kyrgyz is enough to raise suspicion, even without wrongdoing. Could your immigration status be the next to fall apart? Number 5. Kazakhstan. Skyscrapers shine in Almaty. Oil fields stretch endlessly across the western steppe. On the surface, Kazakhstan appears to be flourishing. But beneath that image, thousands of Kazakh citizens in the US are silently slipping through the cracks. Kazakhstan is now a surprising new entry on America's deportation radar in 2025. Despite the lack of headlines, the numbers tell the story. More than 150 Kazakh nationals have already been deported this year. Many had lived in the US for years without incident. So what changed? Shifts in US immigration policy are a major factor. Enforcement is tightening against those who've overstayed visas, particularly individuals from regions considered border security risks. When several Kazakh migrants were caught entering the US through the southern border last year, it triggered heightened scrutiny, despite no evidence of criminal ties. Legitimate students, workers, and travelers are now getting caught in this widening net. And deportation is only the beginning. Returning to Kazakhstan is not easy. Many face intense questioning, surveillance, or government suspicion. Some left their country to escape political oppression or economic hardship, only to be sent back to those very same conditions, often without any support. Within days of arriving back, many find themselves jobless. Their qualifications are dismissed. Their families are fractured. For the US-based Kazakh community, especially students, temporary workers, and asylum seekers, the message is clear: your legal status may no longer guarantee protection. One expired visa, one document mistake, and your entire life could unravel. And it's not just individuals who suffer. These deportations cut off vital remittance flows, destabilize entire households back home, and shatter diaspora communities that took years to build. How long before other Central Asian nations face the same pressure? Number 4. Myanmar often makes headlines for its ongoing conflict and the plight of its people in exile. But what the world rarely sees are the struggles faced by thousands of Burmese nationals living quietly in the United States. In 2025, this diaspora is confronting a new, unexpected crisis: sudden, unexplained deportations. So far this year, over 200 Burmese individuals have been deported from the U.S. Many of them initially arrived as refugees, fleeing decades of political instability and ethnic violence. Others came to study or work, hoping to build safe and stable lives. Yet, in a surprising and distressing turn of events, they are now being sent back, not due to criminal activity, but because of visa technicalities or expired asylum protections. What does it mean to be forced back to a country still engulfed in civil war and widespread human rights abuses? For many, hope turns swiftly into fear. Returnees often face government surveillance, intense social stigma, and in some cases, even detention or forced military conscription. What's even more alarming is that many of these deportations occur without proper legal review. Families are being torn apart. Children are losing parents. Communities are being stripped of leaders and essential members. The question looms: could this deportation wave expand to include more Southeast Asians? What happens when the countries people once fled become cages they're forced to return to? Number 3. China, a nation known for its global ambitions and technological growth, presents a very different story for thousands of its nationals currently living in the United States. In 2025, deportations to China have surged dramatically, sending shockwaves through communities who once believed their American futures were secure. What's behind this sudden shift? The answer lies in rising diplomatic tensions, intensified national security concerns, and increasingly strict immigration enforcement. The U.S. government has escalated its scrutiny of visa overstays and alleged espionage risks, disproportionately targeting Chinese students, professionals, and visitors, even those with no legal infractions. The numbers are sobering. Over 300 Chinese nationals have been deported in just the past year. Many of them were graduate students or young professionals working in fields like science, technology, and business. The consequences are devastating, not only for those deported but for their families and communities on both sides of the Pacific. These removals abruptly cut short lives built around hard work and ambition. But returning to China offers no solace. Deportees are frequently subjected to surveillance, restricted mobility, and, in some instances, interrogation by Chinese authorities who view their time abroad with suspicion. The stigma of deportation often follows them for life, damaging their social standing and career prospects. This isn't just an individual tragedy, it's a broader socio-economic issue. Remittances, which many families in China rely on, suddenly vanish. The result? Strained economic ties and fraying community support systems. On the surface, this may appear as a bureaucratic policy change. In reality, it's a wave of human hardship. How far will this crackdown go? Could it reshape global migration patterns and talent flows for years to come? And what does it mean for the families caught in its wake? Number 2. Nepal, a land where the peaks of the Himalayas meet dreams of a better life abroad, is now facing an immigration crisis of its own in 2025. Thousands of Nepalese nationals living in the United States are being deported, not for criminal behavior, but as a result of stricter immigration enforcement, unresolved visa issues, and shifting political climates. Many came in search of education, employment, or refuge from natural disasters and economic uncertainty back home. Being sent back to Nepal means returning to a nation grappling with fragile infrastructure, limited job opportunities, and an economy still recovering from environmental and economic shocks. For many returnees, this isn't just a homecoming, it's a descent into instability. The emotional toll is compounded by social stigma and family separations that fracture community ties. Worse still, many deported individuals return with no support network, stuck between two identities and struggling to rebuild amid political volatility. The effects of this deportation wave ripple outward, hurting families, disrupting local economies, and weakening global Nepalese diaspora connections. Could this trend signal a larger global migration crisis in the making? How will Nepal adapt if migration slows or reverses? And what happens to the communities that depend on remittances and cross-border connections to survive? Number 1. Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's hillsides, lined with lush tea plantations and ancient temples, mask a nation in the midst of profound economic and social distress. In 2025, that crisis is reaching new heights, especially for Sri Lankans living in the United States. This year, tens of thousands of Sri Lankan nationals find themselves caught in a tightening web of immigration enforcement. Deportations are rising, splitting families apart and throwing futures into chaos. Why now? The reasons are layered and complex. Sri Lanka's economy is buckling under the weight of massive debt, runaway inflation, which soared past 60%, and ongoing political instability. For many deportees, returning home doesn't just mean restarting, it means stepping into a crisis zone. Jobs are scarce. Public services are overwhelmed. Communities are still reeling from the aftermath of the pandemic and climate-related disasters like severe floods. Deportees often return to a place where earning a living is nearly impossible. The loss of remittances is another silent blow. These funds are a lifeline for millions of Sri Lankans, sustaining families, small businesses, schools, and healthcare systems. As these cash flows dwindle, the social and economic strain intensifies. Larger questions now hang in the air. Can the Sri Lankan government absorb this wave of returnees? Will its economic reforms be enough to prevent further collapse? Or will these mass deportations only deepen social tensions and economic suffering? The stakes could not be higher. Behind the numbers are stories of broken families, deferred dreams, and a nation struggling to hold itself together. Across nations, from Myanmar to China, Nepal to Sri Lanka, a common thread emerges: the growing vulnerability of immigrant communities amid shifting global policies. These are not distant or abstract tales. They are real people, real families, and real futures hanging in the balance. Whether driven by collapsing economies, tightening borders, or rising nationalism, the consequences are undeniably human. No country is immune to these ripple effects. No society is untouched by such upheaval. As global crises multiply, the systems meant to protect the vulnerable are faltering. If this story opened your eyes to what's happening behind the headlines, don't stay silent. Subscribe, share this video, and join the conversation. The more people who understand these issues, the more powerful our collective response can be. We're committed to going deeper, telling the stories others won't, and shining a light on the realities that matter most. Stay tuned. What comes next may be even more urgent. Because knowledge is power. Let's use it wisely.